Here we go again.
No, not again.
You've been fooled.
How long have we been doing this?
Once more unto the
Again, until we're both dead.
Hello and welcome to You've Seen It Before, movie reviews with connections in mind. Jumanji Welcome to the Jungle is coming to theaters this month, and it stars Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Kevin Hart, Jack Black, and Karen Gillan as the avatars of the Jumanji video game. And this is sort of a soft reboot / sequel of the original 1990s movie Jumanji, starring the late great Robin Williams, may he rest in peace. And this follows four teenage kids who are sucked into the video game of Jumanji, and they take on the roles of their avatars, and they get swapped body-wise with the main actors of this film, and they are forced into basically saving the world of Jumanji and playing the game in order to return to their original bodies. Now, this video will contain certain spoilers of Jumanji Welcome to the Jungle, as well as certain other films and TV series. There will be a full list in the description below. And if you have not seen Jumanji Welcome to the Jungle yet, and want to wait until you have, stop the video at this point and come back later. But with these things in mind, though, let's begin. So the main crux of Jumanji Welcome to the Jungle revolves around these four teenage kids getting sucked into the game world of Jumanji and assuming these roles of their avatars in order to save this world of Jumanji. Now, this will sound very familiar to people who are familiar with the world of the Chronicles of Narnia, more specifically the most recent film adaptations of the Chronicles of Narnia. That film series revolved around a series of children who are sucked into a fantasy world, mainly Narnia, and they have to assume the roles of the kings and queens of Narnia, and they are called upon to save this fantasy world on numerous occasions. And they, especially in Chronicles of Narnia, technically the second book, but the first film of the most recent film series, wherein they have to save the world of Narnia, and then they grow up in this world of Narnia, where the children the Pevensies end up growing up in the world of Narnia, and then they end up returning to the real world as they're from adult bodies into their childhood bodies in the real world. Very similar to what happens in Jumanji, where these children are sucked into the world of Jumanji, and they're placed in adult bodies, avatars, and they have to play the game as adults, and then they get placed back into their teenage selves at the end of the film. Next, this film also derives a lot of its humor from the body-swapping elements of these, most notably in the role of Jack Black, where Jack Black plays an avatar of a very preppy teenage girl who is very self-absorbed. She's always on her phone, and she's a very popular girl in the school, and then she gets plopped into the body of Jack Black, who is in her words, an overweight middle-aged man. And there is a lot of humor derived from these characters who are body-swapping and placed in bodies that are not necessarily representative of how they view themselves in the real world, but in the world of Jumanji, they're getting to play these very stereotypical roles. Also, like in the role of The Rock Johnson, who is who's playing the avatar of a very shy, nerdy teenage boy, and he's placed in the body of The Rock, who is a very muscular, fit man. this is very reminiscent of, this is not a very unique trope of films. There are other films that have done this before, but in my mind, I associate this most with Stargate. The series Stargate SG-1 first posited a technology in the series wherein two characters can place a stone onto a device, and they can swap bodies with a person galaxies away, and they may not necessarily share a body with someone who's similar in appearance to them, or even the same gender, actually. And there's a lot of humor that can be derived from this. Now, this plays out in Stargate SG-1, and most notably in Stargate Universe, where this technology plays a very prominent role in communication between the crew of Destiny and people on Earth. Now, this also played out in the film adaptation of Scooby-Doo, the live-action Scooby-Doo, but that did not necessarily go very well, so I prefer to think about it in terms of Stargate. Finally, there's an interesting parallel in Jumanji with the character portrayed by Nick Jonas, who is the avatar of the child who was sucked into the game of Jumanji circa 1996 and stayed in the game and had to survive in the game all this time till our four main characters got sucked into the game circa 2017, and he basically gets rescued by these kids and he has to survive the game with the help of these our four main characters. Very similar to the situation that we find our character Eric in Jurassic Park III, where Alan Grant has to rescue this child who was stranded on Isla Sorna for 8 weeks, and he has survived the wilderness all this time with the jungle and the dinosaurs, and the outside force comes to rescue him. Very similar in that regard. So with all this being said, would I still recommend you see Jumanji Welcome to the Jungle? I would say absolutely. This is definitely a very fun film. This film derives a lot of its energy on the body swapping aspect and the fact that our main actors are playing against type. The Rock is a very muscular man and very tough man in a lot of his films, and this time he gets to play a teenage boy who is kind of a hypochondriac, and he's scared of squirrels and a lot of other things, and then that derives a lot of humor for that. And by far, the standout of this cast is the Jack Black playing the She's All That high school girl, a very popular girl, and she has to come to grips with that. And that is, Jack Black steals every scene of this film, and that is impressive considering the pedigree of the other three main actors of this film. Kevin Hart, while it is fun to try to see him playing he is essentially embodies the jock character of this film, he is essentially playing himself in this film. And while it is fun, it is not necessarily against type again for him, as well as Karen Gillan is embodying a very shy girl in this film, and she is in the real world. This girl is kind of is shy. She's not necessarily the very popular girl, and while she may be attractive she's attractive in the real world, she doesn't seem like that. And then she's placed into the body of Karen Gillan, who is objectively a very attractive woman, and she gets to play against type in that role, but not necessarily the same stretch that Jack Black goes to. So that's an interesting role. So it's not quite the same reach there, but all that aside, these four actors get to have a lot of fun. They all have great chemistry between each other, and that's where this film really shines. If there are any faults to this film, I would say it really lies with the film's main villain, which is really just kind of there. And while this film does poke fun at the tropes of saying like, all right, we're highlighting the fact that this is a video game, and we get to they essentially put it through a cutscene, which is basically just an extended exposition scene to say, yes, this is where the backstory of this villain is, and it does explain sort of why this villain is evil. It really doesn't show up very well in the rest of the film, and he's not very developed, and he's just kind of there to say, yes, this is the evil guy. You want to avoid this guy. There's not really a lot of development besides that, and that is sort of a weakness to this film, and it kind of drags when he shows up in the film itself. But overall, I would say that's sort of a nitpick. But if you had gotten rid of the villain itself, I would say there would have been plenty of conflict and obstacles in our character's way in order to make it entertaining. So I would say that would probably be the film's main weakness. But overall, I would say this is definitely a very fun film. It is definitely worth your time, and you should definitely check this out. If not in theaters, then definitely when it comes out on home media. I was fortunate enough to watch it on the Prime, Amazon Prime early screening of this film. I believe it is released on December 22nd. And if you want to see it, it's definitely a film that you can see when you have kids around and you go into the movie theater. If you've seen all the other films, like this comes out after Star Wars, and if you've already seen Star Wars, and you want to see something besides Star Wars, this is definitely a valid option for you. So there you have it. There's my thoughts on Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle. I hope you appreciate it. I appreciate whatever audience I can get. Be sure to look for my written review of Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle. I placed a link in the description below. And next time will be the movie that we've been waiting all year for, which is Star Wars: The Last Jedi. And that comes out December 15th. I will be posting a written review and a You've Seen It Before review on YouTube. And thank you all for watching, and just remember, there's nothing new under the sun, and yes, you have seen it before.